June Singleton LLC, Fitness, Health, Mindset, Nutrition, and Wellness Podcast. You guys, I have a great guest. She's an art educator, CEO, and founder of Auntie Connie's Creative Corner, Constance A. Kinder. She's affectionately called Auntie Connie. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Can you give a background on yourself?
Oh, sure. I am about 22, 21 years in the education field. I was a career changer. Who would have ever guessed that I would still be here? But you know, it's everything. Like, I enjoy everything about education, not so much the politics, but everything else. I'm native from Newark, New Jersey. I moved here to the DMV in 97. So I've been here a little over 20 years. So this is home number 2 for me, and Jersey is home number 1. As an educator, I've worked for Prince George's County Public Schools, DC. There's a charter school I worked in DC, and I did do some stuff with DCPS, and then landed here with Montgomery County Public Schools, where I've been there for 15 years now. And I've worn every hat from behavioral specialist to art teacher to teacher mentor, pretty much just about everything. I've tapped my toe in it a little bit. So this school year, I'm serving as the content specialist for fine arts at our virtual academy for the upper school, which is 6th grade through 12th grade. The kids come back on Monday. We're excited and stressed already, and it's only Thursday, and the school year hasn't really technically officially started until, like Monday, but that's who I am. I have a daughter. My daughter, Brianna, she's about 26, she is 26. I'm an only child of Rutha and Robert Kinder, or the late Robert Kinder. My father's deceased. He's been deceased for about 9 years now. But that's who I am. I'm a member of People's Community Baptist Church in Silver Spring, Maryland. I am a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I belong to the Gamma Alpha Eta Zeta chapter, which is one of the Montgomery County chapters. So pretty much Auntie Connie is, service. when I think about what I do, both personally and professionally, it's all service related, service based.
Okay. And what got you into the education field? Because, hey, some people try to, they step their foot in it, and then they're like, yeah, this ain't for me. I don't want to be dealing with nobody bad kids. So what was it for you?
I look at getting into education as a divine intervention, right? So I was about to turn 30, and I was working for one of the airlines, living a life of Raleigh, flying where I wanted to go, making a nice, making nice coins, just living life, and like, as I was approaching my 30th birthday, I was like, okay, now what? It has to totally be more to life than just this. And I never forget driving out of the parking lot, and I was like, there's got to be more. But what that more is, I wasn't sure at the time. And then eventually I was like, Lord, only you got to answer this, because I don't know. And everything I was trying to attempt, nothing was, coming to fruition. So I was like, well, you know what? Let me just step out of my own way. And so I don't believe it's just a thought. I believe like the Holy Spirit actually dipped into my spirit. You're good with kids. You need to be working with kids. And in the meantime, I was like, no, you're wrong. You got the wrong person. I was like, nah, I don't think so. And so every time I caught myself trying to go into a different field, something about kids came up again. And then I was like, I don't even know how to start Like, how am I gonna get in here? I was like, I didn't go to school to be a teacher because that was never a desire for me, you know? And so I just started applying, and I never forget, I was leaving to go on a business trip. And probably about an hour before it was time for me to leave my office to go to the airport, Prince George's County called. And it was giving me this whole, you know, soliloquy of the program they had and how, you know, they came across my resume, even though I didn't have the education experience, but I had the art experience, and how they would, you know, be able to help me, you know, throughout the process. And I was like, okay. And I mean, but everything works out, you know. Sometimes, you know, we look at things and we're like, God, what are you doing? You know, you got jokes, like for real. And literally, honest to goodness, my resignation was August the 11th, 2001.
Mm.
A month later, 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, like all the hospitality industry took a hit, like hotels and especially the airlines. And I was working for one of the prominent airlines. They took a hit. People, you know, was losing their jobs. And I was like, okay, here I am. And ever since then, you know, it's like, okay. And, you know, like I said, I've been teaching for what, 21 years now. Been in Montgomery County for 15 of those years, and I've never looked back. The one time I attempted to look back was like maybe year 5. And I was like, forget all this. There ain't nobody. I'm not doing this. I'm out of here. Let me go to something else. And I took a different position, totally out of, you know, the education realm, but it was still a service-oriented position. Mm-hmm. And after being there for maybe almost a year, then, you know, how, you know, companies, they start to change over stuff. And I mean, they knew going in that the schedule they was ready to offer me was not going to work for me. And then after that, and then plus my experience dealing with the clients, I was like, I might as well be in the classroom. At least, you know, kids, in most cases, they, you know, they can't help themselves because they need to be taught. But grown folks, I don't know. And I've been moving and grooving ever since.
So can you tell us about your background in arts? How, you know, was it childhood? Was it something you developed later? Was it from the church? Just, you know, how it all came together for you.
It started as a little girl because, you know, my parents anyway, they kept me occupied, you know. So Saturdays was dance class, Girl Scouts, you know, Saturday youth programs, you know, all that good stuff. So I took probably about almost 8 years of dance between ballet. Ballet was my main preference at the time. I did jazz a little bit. I think I took an African dance class, but that didn't work well in my favor. So I was like, okay, let me stick to what I really know. And then I had an opportunity to work. By the time I got into high school, there was a woman, her name is Marie Thomas Foster, and she was the owner and founder of Peppermint Players. And Peppermint Players was an organization that they were heavy into the arts, but it was mainly theater and dance. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the dance consultants, and I did that throughout high school, you know, and then, you know, occasionally I tutor, you know, not outside of, you know, the arts. I would tutor here, tutor there, be a mentor here, mentor there. And so when I got ready to go to college, the thought of being an art major was not in my preview, right? I thought I was going to be an electrical engineer. Not. After taking that first computer class and the way I sweated through my physics class, I was like, nah, this not for me. So then I decided to change my, you know, well, I hadn't even declared the major yet, but in my mind, electrical engineer was bye-bye. And so I was like, okay, I gotta choose something, you know. So I was like, well, I'll be an art major. But at the time, back in 89? Yeah, back in 89, 88, 89, like you didn't hear of professions like dance therapists or, things of that nature. You were either a performer or you taught, there was nothing in between. And so what I did was I even though I enjoyed dance, I became an art major and concentrated on drawing, but I would take dance classes as electives. And that's what I did, and then I got bit by the photography bug. So then I was like, okay, no more drawing. I'm gonna do photography and be a photographer. Then I got to like my last year of school and I was like, photography is getting more expensive and my parents want me to hurry up and finish. So let's go back and finish our sequence of drawing and you just get you a degree in that and you keep it moving. And the rest is her story, his story, everybody's story, and that's how I landed here. And it's funny because when I started teaching, I was teaching art. And then probably maybe 5 years in, after I did that little hiatus working somewhere else, and then I ended up getting into Montgomery County. I didn't start in Montgomery County as an art teacher. Or did I? Oh, yes, I did. Correction. Yes, I did. The first year I was an art teacher for one of the schools. And then, with staffing changes, usually last one hired, first one got to go. So I was in that bucket. And then I didn't do art or teach art for like maybe almost 6-7 years until we needed the middle school I was teaching at the time. We had more students than teachers to teach art. And so they was like, oh, Miss Kendra has a certification, art education. Can we put that on your schedule? I'm like, all right, fine, and started doing it then. And once I left that school, every school I've gone to after that, I've been just teaching art. And so much so, now that I'm gonna coin the phrase that art is life, and I talk about that even with my current students. So like now I'm so far into it, I'm not just doing like, hands-on paint and drawing, that type of thing. They got me teaching theater. I'm like, what? Y'all don't know what y'all done did. So actually now I think about it, I was like, I should have been probably a theater major, but it's just great. And the way and even at church we have a dance ministry at church, so once upon a time I was one of the associate dance consultants there too. But then after a while, life kicked in and was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. But I love to watch when they do minister. I'm like standing there like, oh my God, and I'm like sitting in my seat doing movements like I was at practice. And then sometimes, I'll drop in at their practices and they're like, you gonna minister with them? I just came to watch, but that's how, that's in terms of art, that's where art has been in my life thus far. And then having Creative Corner started. Creative Corner was really started. I would say it's a labor of love, because it is a labor of love, but one of my really good girlfriends, I call like a little sister to me, her daughter was turning 5. And they always had these themed like birthday parties for their kids. And this particular year, she wanted an art themed birthday party. And I never forget, I was driving in a car, I don't know where I was on my way to. But she called and she was telling me about everything. And she was like, I don't know how to even go about this. So we called Auntie Connie for some help, right? And so, I just started just running it down. I was like, okay, well, what are you thinking? And, is there a sub theme to the theme? And, and then I just started rattling off different projects and activities I've done either with kids at Vacation Bible School or with kids at school. And she was like, okay, wait a minute. She's all right, hold up. I was like, she said, just tell me what supplies you need and we'll have you handle the rest. I was like, okay, no problem. And it was crazy because it was almost like a moment for me, because then I got to the light and I was like, that would be amazing if we, then I started coming up with all these ideas. And so my business consultant that I had at the time, but she still serves me, periodically here and there, I called them like, check this out. And so I started, she's like, okay, hold, let me get my notebook. And, and it actually, she had some other ideas for it. And I was like, yeah, okay, all right, okay. But it actually has taken a different turn. So like the hope is that it would become an established Saturday program or after school program, or just, actually I'm really working, I may tip my toe in doing some like webinars, where kids that can't necessarily be around people, they don't have to miss out on any type of art opportunities, because Auntie Connie's Creative Corner will have this whole what, I don't know what to call it, a webinar or e-class or something that they can get involved in and kind of go from there. But yeah, so that's the arts challenge. You see, I can go on and on and on. Then I start getting excited and come up with other ideas. So what other questions you have for me?
Well, we are going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about why do you feel arts is definitely important for kids. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned, because Auntie Connie got a lot to tell us now.
Okay.
Hi, we are back, and Auntie Connie is going to tell us why she feels that art is necessary, because we hear so much, in the media of arts being taken out of school. It's not necessary, but kids really do thrive from arts, and they learn so much, especially the ones with, developmental or intellectual disabilities or behavior. So can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah. When it comes down to arts education, like the arts give kids some level of discipline and some level of creative thinking, social skills, and, at the end of the day, some level of confidence. Because you figure if you're in theater, you're forced to talk in front of people, whether you with a group of people or you're doing a monologue and you by yourself, but you still have to talk to people. And that helps them build up their self-confidence. That helps them to feel like, what, I do have a purpose. I do have a place, It also allows kids to not only do well, the whole critical thinking piece and the self-esteem and discipline, but it helps in all the other subjects too. Because if you think about math has some level of art to it, especially when you start getting into that geometry, which is not my ministry, and algebra, which is sure enough not my ministry.
Algebra was good.
But you get into, of those other types of math, just looking at the way things are set up and the way they, just arrange things with numbers and shapes and things like that. That's art. When we talk about, the sciences, it's art in the sciences. It's art in social studies. There's art in some shape or form. Art is in all major core curriculums. One, art is every day, right? Look at my background. Somebody designed that. Right. Look at your banners. Someone designed those, right? The hairstyles that we see, because we see a lot of those. That's and you looking like, wow, especially if you're really into fashion, right. Then you really see these strange hairstyles, these clothes, the designers of clothes, the way that the makeup is applied on the face, the glasses that are worn, the cars we drive, these graphic tees. So it's like art is so important because it's in everything that we do. everything, even down to what we eat. Because if you go to a restaurant and that food, the presentation don't look right, you're like, I don't want that. Can you take that back, please? But then if you get, let's say if you go, I guess we can't really use fast food, but if you go to like a regular sit down, like Ruth Chris type of place, the presentation of the food, especially if you're watching other people's food being served, you're like, oh, that's pretty. Let me get that, and it's colorful. I know that's one thing for me. I love color in all my food, right? I like, some people, they eat salads, they only like Caesar salad. That's boring. That's boring. Auntie Connie need a bunch of colors. I need a little bit of this, that, and some more stuff, because it not only makes me happy, it's delicious, by putting those things together. So like, the arts is just something, and it's just unfortunate that a lot of times, not a lot, in most cases, public schools in particular, when they're cutting stuff, that's the first thing to go. And then even if they don't really, what they would identify as cutting it, you're still not going to get all the disciplines. You're not going to get the dance. You're not going to get you may not get the theater. If you get music, it's only chorus. It's more than music than singing. And then with the dance, what they'll do is they'll tuck it in with PE. Really? Okay, well, we getting it, but it's not known as a dance class for art. It's part of the PE, curriculum or whatever the case might be. And so I just think, without it, we're boring people. That's just my thing. Without it, we just boring, and it's just like being ashy. You get some lotion, you need some lotion or some cocoa butter, so you get rid of that ash. Art is that lotion, and it gives what it needs for everything else around us. That's how I see it.
I love that analogy. It's like art moisturizes your life. So yes.
And it's so crazy because, like in most cases, like our Black and brown kids, they really suffer from it. Like they don't get the opportunity for some of the programs that might be available because it might be an economic issue, or it might be a location issue, where you have our other counterparts, for their parents to drop, $500 a month for them to send them off somewhere for some camp or whatever, it's not a big deal. Granted, in most cases, they don't really want to be there no way, but that's a whole nother subject at another time. But, it's just, and just to know that, and the other part about that, in most cases, if you hear about art programs, not too many of us, Melon, are offering these programs. So like for me, I feel like I'm paying it forward because I'll go back to her name, Marie Thomas Foster, Peppermint Players, back in the 80s, right? That was in New Jersey. And I got an opportunity to see her like a couple months ago. And I was like, oh my God, let me tell you what I'm getting ready to do. I'm not calling it Peppermint Players, and we offering a little bit more, but it's still a part of someone's day in, day out life. And a lot of times art also helps not only just children, but even adults in terms of being able to communicate and to express themselves, because sometimes, we have kids, I know you mentioned about, develop, their level of development and what have you. Some of them are mute, but they get into an art class, like, something that requires them to move their hands and create sculptures and ceramics or paint pictures or draw. And then you're able to see the happiness within that child's soul, or even that adult soul that you can't read by looking at them, because they affect may be flat. So you can't tell they're happy, mad, or sad until they provide some level of a artistic creation. Then you're able to say, okay. And then from that, they might be able to understand what you're saying because you can speak. and then they can continue to draw in order to communicate. And that's just, I just think it's just in everything, and art is everything. And and art is also like a non-judgment zone, right? You go in and you could be whoever you want to be, right? And nobody really can't say no, but that's not right. Who tell me it's not right? It's my art. This is my interpretation. So, whereas with math, of course, there's a right and wrong. In certain English things, there is a right and wrong. But in art, I would say 99%, there's not technically a right or wrong, because everybody has their own opinion and foresight when they look at somebody's work, or even view somebody's work, whether it's, watching, a play, or watching an actor on television, or anything like that.
So can you tell us what Auntie's Creative Corner, what do you offer the kids?
Okay, so we will be offering dance, theater, music, and regular visual arts. Now with music, that's going to be more of like a workshop type of component. So that's not something they would get the first and third Saturdays of every month, right? But the art, the visual art, the dance, and the theater, they would get that consistently the first and third Saturdays of every month, start in October. And then the hope is, we will have the number that we set. We have a very limited number. So, because we want to make sure that each kid gets that individualized attention and be able to soar in that particular area in which they're working in.
Okay. And can you explain what visual art is? Because, people may not know what visual art is.
So visual arts are things like drawing, painting, sculpture, ceramics. I've been went on a whole tangent. We talked about collaging, and there's a lot of different types of ways of doing collages. When you think of collage, think of vision boards, right? Because when you do a vision board, ideally, that's what a vision board is. It's a collage of the vision that you set for yourself, either for the next 6 months, the next year, or years to come, right? You look at it and ta-da, artwork. I have quite a few vision boards, have them hanging up on my wall like it's art, because art is life.
Hey, I got a vision board hanging up in my bedroom too.
That's right.
So can you tell the audience how art and wellness ties in together?
Art and wellness ties, and I think I kind of mentioned it a few minutes ago when I talked about being able to express oneself, right? When they might not necessarily have the words to say how they feel. And as opposed to acting out in a negative way, they're able to express how they feel, whether it be through dance or whether it be through the visual arts, whether it be, painting, drawing, and things like that. Or even in theater. Because with theater, in terms of, mental health and wellness, you might be going through this one thing and you're like, just for a day, can I just be somebody else? Right? And then you're in this class, or you decide to take this class, a theater class, for example, and the instructor gives a script. So for that 45 minutes of practice, I done went from Auntie Connie to Marilyn Monroe, the color version, and I can act, and get all, and however, and just put myself somewhere else. Granted, not so much so that I lose some sense of reality, because we don't want to lose sense of reality now. But just for a moment, just be in a different space, be in a different headspace and a different environment altogether. With music, if it's piano, or it's the tuba, or it's the clarinet, or it's just singing, we know for sure, many gospel artists, here recently, everybody's sharing their mental health, battles and stuff. And the one thing for them, besides prayer, they're singing. A lot of times when they singing to the masses, they singing and ministering to themselves. I've heard who that Marvin Sapp mentioned something like that. I've heard Erica Campbell talk about those type of things, when they, having a hard moment, like, just really depressed and out. And, because they are who they are, they have to be ready. So they have to be showtime. So they go out there and they just sing their heart out. And then by the time they finish, that load that they walked on stage with, not saying it's gone, but it's lighter, and then, same thing with dance and, all the visual arts, I really believe they all help communicate some level of the yes, the no's, the maybe so's. I'm here today, I'm going tomorrow. They all reflect something, and they help because it helps, if you're not one to crying tears help release, I don't know the scientific terms, but I know it release stuff. You know what I mean? So with playing the music or playing the drums, releasing that tension, as opposed to going to some place axe throwing and going to one of them breaking up stuff places, get you some color by numbers or something, and put you on a little meditation music from YouTube, and next thing you know, you might be done painted up something or crocheted something or collaged up something, and then you look back and you're like, well, I feel real good right now, because now that experience has taken you out of that funk, or it has helped you think about something that you need to really address. And I mean, and then of course it's the other part of it, because sometimes with the arts, especially as an educator, if we have our kids, using paint and using crayons and markers and things like that, this would be the same, I would think, for art therapists. Pay attention to the colors that's being used. Using a lot of, not saying nothing's wrong with cool colors like blues and greens. There's nothing wrong with, the warm colors, reds and yellows, but how are they using those reds and yellows? How are they using those blues and greens? What they doing with the black? And what they're drawing, or, I know I used to teach elementary school kids, and they used to love to get paper and be making stuff out of the paper. And we wasn't doing no anime or nothing like that. They just I just let them do what they do. I just let them get there. Whatever level of creativity they was trying to foster, Miss Kendall was letting it rock and roll. Now, but when it got to things like drawings, or if they were trying to make stuff like guns and things like that, I'm like, oh, no. And then that's a conversation, because it's like, okay, well, why you wanna make a paper gun?
Right.
It's the most simplest thing to make.
Right.
And so that sparks, through the arts, that sparks conversation. And that's one of the things that I find like a lot of kids are not doing. They're not doing a whole lot of verbal talking. They're doing a lot of this finger tapping stuff called text messaging.
Text messaging, video games.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, Constance, what's next? Do you have any upcoming projects? When does Kids, your corner, when does it open up, and what's the age range?
Yeah, we are so excited. So registration is open now. And if anyone is interested, go to www.auntie.conniesplace.com, and there's a registration tab to register. The grade level is kindergarten through 6th grade that we're going to be working with. if we come across a couple of 7th or 8th graders, just depends, because that age in middle school, they think they too cool for school. So they might not be trying to hang out with Auntie Connie, and that's okay. I'm not going to take it personal. I ain't going to take it personal. But ideally, kindergarten through 6th grade, and they don't have to, they can come from any economic background, any racial background. We don't care. This is no judgment. We're here to have fun in the arts and be creative. We're running actually a raffle where people just send me an email, Auntie Connie at auntieconnysplace.com, and share their interest with all their contact information. And on September the 15th, we're going to do a live drawing on Instagram and Facebook live. And we're going to select 3 participants, and they would receive a 20% discount on the first month's tuition. With the tuition, it's a monthly tuition. There's a registration cost of $20, and that, did I say 20 or 25? I want to say it's 20. Let's go. We're gonna hold on to 20, and that that covers them have all their art supplies. So parents wouldn't have to go out and buy anything additional. They just need to pay their tuition and bring their child on time to the program and keep them there so we can have our fun. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome, because there's not too many programs that's offering the supplies. You have to bring the supplies and you got to pay the fee. So that's amazing.
And we're gonna actually throw a t-shirt in for our kids too. Mm-hmm. So because we're gonna be running it out of the Largo Kettering Library in October, and so we want to be able to identify our little ones. Granted, we're not gonna let them be free for all, but we still want to be able to identify them. And then, then other people see them and like, oh, what's going on? And it'll become the talk of the town, if I should say.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or you may have a kid that gets excited to see what you're doing and want to slide in and not one of yours. So that definitely helps to identify them.
Exactly.
And can you tell people where they can find you?
They can find me on the website, www.auntieconnysplace.com. We're also on Facebook at Auntie Connie's Creative Corner, as well as Instagram. What's the new word? What's the word they just say? IG, on IG. And we're on, LinkedIn is probably more for the adults, but we're also on LinkedIn and TikTok. All Auntie Connie's Creative Corner.
Okay, some professional moms might need your services for their kids, so LinkedIn works.
Yeah, and the program, I forgot to share this part, is from 10 to 1.
Okay.
Nice amount of time for moms, single dads, or anybody that have little people. Bring them on over. We're going to have a good old time.
Great. Well, you heard it from her. If you need a break on Saturday, take them on to Auntie Connie. She got you. But I want to thank you so much for sharing the story, because
thank you for having me.
Arts is something that's needed. Personally, myself, I do, sometimes paint as a way of release. Music is another thing. Listening to music is so therapeutic. Movement, if it's dancing, whatever you find that works for you to release. So thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, where you are now. Till next time, I'm LaJune. You can find me at LaJuneSingleton.com. And again, I do have a promotion for health coaching and personal training. So you can find that on my website, LaJuneSingleton.com. Until next time, thank you so much, Constance.
Thank you.